Namaste and welcome to the PGurus YouTube channel. I'm your host, Sri Narasimhan, and we are here today at the third day of the World Hindu Congress here in Bangkok, Thailand. And we have a very special guest. This one is really special. Ravi Chand is from Australia. He's a writer, director, and producer of the movie Namaste Yoga. The poster caught my eye, and I attended a session, and Ravi just came with one of the most amazing stories. So Ravi, let's first talk about the movie and then talk about your personal journey.
Sure.
Tell us about Namaste Yoga.
Namaste Yoga is a 22-minute film about a boy named Shiv who's ashamed of being Hindu. He lives in Australia, Melbourne. And when he gets into a fight at school, the only way for him to avoid being suspended is by doing mandatory lunchtime yoga classes. So his homeroom's teacher, who has done a 200-hour yoga course and thinks she's a guru, decides to teach him. And it talks about the cultural appropriation of yoga and the effect that has on young Hindu kids when their culture is commodified, appropriated, and then sold back.
Where did you learn yoga?
What's yoga?
You know, the poses and stuff.
Well, I learnt it from your grandfather, who was my guru, and he learnt it from your great-grandfather, who was also his guru. And that's how it was passed on. Would you like to learn?
I want to be strong and have muscles like you.
I see. Well, yoga is not about muscles or vanity. It's about a union with the Paramatma, super soul that connects all souls and living beings. You understand what that means?
Kinda. No, not really.
It's okay. You're young. For now, you just need to understand that inside of you there is this energy. Some call it consciousness or love or spirit or chi. For us, it is Atma.
What about Mum's Atma? Where's hers?
Atma never dies, better. It resides in all living beings, in animals, Mother Earth herself, inside you.
I see. Now, did Shiv, the kid, get out of trouble in school?
Yeah, you have to watch. I think that Shiv had to do the yoga classes.
We're going to show what's going on in the background. That was special. That was really special. All right, Ravi, you're talking about Shiv.
Yeah.
And his travails and successes.
Yeah.
At his experiment.
Yeah, so Shiv has a father who is also a yoga acharya, and so he very long time has thought that his father doesn't really know a great deal. And when he starts reconnecting back to asking his father about what yoga really is, because he's learning it in school, he starts learning that yoga is more than about just fitness or looking good or the way that you dress. It's about something much deeper, a meaning and connection to something much deeper. And so that's where Shiv goes on his journey, because when we meet him, he's very impressed because it's only been 6 months since his mother has passed away.
Oh, okay.
So that story is based upon my life and what it was like.
I see. So Ravi, I heard you at the session today, and it was a pretty unexpected story of yours. We had a few other panelists out there, and yours stood out because of the journey that you've been through. Yeah. Tell us about your life, and tell us about what you learned, what kept you sane during that time?
Well, I guess the story that I was talking about was, a week for my 12th birthday, my mother passed away in a car accident. Her car was hit by a speeding van and she passed away pretty much instantly. She passed away, and I cannot explain to you as a 12-year-old boy, your body is not equipped for that much grief. It doesn't know what to do with it. So for me, I turned into a shell of a person. Like I lost all sense of, because we lost contact with my mother's side of the family as well. So I lost all sense of belonging. I lost all sense of place. I didn't know who I was. And so trying to cope through that, it's a good question. I guess I didn't really cope with it. I just got used to carrying the best way of
Carrying the burden.
Carrying the burden. The burden was always there. It's like having a heavy bag. You know it's always there, but not that you get used to it, but you get stronger at carrying it. I thought I was stronger at carrying it. And then 24 years later, after my mother passed away, I found out that my maternal grandma, my nani, who I thought had passed away decades ago, was still alive and waiting for me in the same house in Fiji.
So just to set the context here, you were born in Fiji.
Yes.
And then there was a time when you moved to Australia.
Yes.
An brown Indian kid moving to basically crocodile country and experiencing that cathartic change of environment, trying to adapt to it, then trying to explain yourself of things they probably did not know.
Yeah.
Right? You explained it as you knew as a 12-year-old or whenever you moved. And then you had to reconstruct your past, not only of you yourself, your family, and then your community, and then all the way up your culture, values, and to civilization. That is something that's what stood out at the session today.
When I met my nani again, because I also, just to give you a context, when I came into Australia, from the moment that we got there, everybody was white. And so I was picked a lot. I had dark skin as well, so I was picked a lot for the color of my skin. Even like to the age of like only a couple of years ago, I still get comments about my skin and racial sort of taunts. But when I was younger, I was really strong. And so you start learning and feeling like being someone from Bharat isn't a good thing because you become a target. And so the way that you survival and try to adapt to that is by changing to your environment. And I tried to change to become more Australian. And so what they
more
did,
white.
Yeah, not so much more white, but like I saw a lot of the music that they liked. The hard part was that my dad, and I can understand why, he would get very angry because it would be like, you're just like a Gora. You're just like another Gora.
Just like a Gora.
Yeah, but you didn't know that I'd go to school and I'd have to fight those very Goras for saying racist things to me. So I got home, I copped it. Went out, I copped it. So what happens is you start building up this mechanism, and I did. I started putting myself together, so I'd become feared by them, and that's what happened. And a lot of that came through. The only thing that we got was that was seen as acceptable was Black African kind of American culture, and so
you went the route of an angry Black young man.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so much. It was more like still very much of like an Indian boy, but the persona was very much. I could understand the music that they were saying because the same racist names they were getting called, I was getting called them.
Yeah. You were probably listening to NWA.
Yes, I was.
And what is it, back in Compton?
Yeah. NWA, and a lot of Tupac and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Still do, but like, I think
and they were going east versus west and all that stuff. New York was there.
Yeah, I loved it all. And because like they spoke about things that I could relate to.
Yeah.
The rest of Australian TV and film, everything was white. I couldn't identify with any of that. And so when that came along, it gave me like an outlet to get my anger out about everything I faced.
Okay.
So it when I then met Nani, it was just one of the most surreal moments because Nani, when I was in Fiji, my mother worked in Lautoka Hospital, so she'd drop me off to Nani's house and Nani would take care of me all day. And she said, "You were with me the whole entire time." Yeah. And so when they took I said photos of Nani's house, and she has very distinctive wallpaper and carpet. And
all that imagery just came to you when you found that your nanny was still alive, and that was probably after 24 years, 30 years or so?
It felt like a dream. It felt like I walked into a dream, and the only thing that made me feel like it was real was Nani was holding my hand. and I kept
You could feel her wrinkled hands.
yeah, it's really soft hands. I kept on
And that
kind of touching it.
you had that imprinted in your brain sometime.
Yeah. And so, but after I met Nani, she loved me for who I was. And because of that, I felt like every molecule like in my body started changing and questioning. And I just started researching, doing all this sort of stuff. And I didn't have very much luck online or outside. But then eventually I found two people, I spoke about them in the speech, with Zana Joshi and Dr. Indu Vishwanathan, and they were incredible. They again helped me to understand Hindu Dharma, what it was about, and really talk about it, what we were before colonialism. And I really identified to that. They told me so many teachings and learnings that I was like, this is me. This is who I am. Yeah. And then I started then I started creating work so that children that watch it, younger generations that watch it, even generations my age that live in Western diaspora, they don't have to feel like I felt like growing up. And that's become the mission, to serve the community in that.
That's a wonderful personal story, Ravi. I've not heard something like that before. And you've channelized it into a creative pursuit, turning the mirror back to other Indian kids all over the place, Australia, Fiji, West Indies, I guess, Guyana.
Yeah, we get UK, America as well. There's a pitch that I have that I did originally when we were, like the documentary that we're developing about my Nani is now called 5-Year Grandma. It was originally pitched, it's online.
It's called
Facebook, 5-Year Grandma, because I had her for 5 years.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just put up the video of me talking about and pitching at an event in Melbourne, and it just went berserk online. And so on Facebook, it's like over 500,000 views. It's been shared like 1,700 times. But the most wonderful part of it is that I had all these grandmas contacting me saying, I know it's not the same, but if you ever need a grandma, I'm here for you.
Wow.
And I've got aunties like have grown children I've never met will contact me to say,
it's such a moving story. I think a couple of years back we had that movie Lion.
Yes, yeah.
Something similar.
Yeah.
Where the kid is dissociated from his homeland, finds himself in a different continent, and comes back, and reconstructs this whole thing, and his lost brother and a lost family and all of that.
Yeah.
Such a trauma.
Yeah, I think, and I never thought it was like
You thought it was life.
I did, exactly. I thought it was. I remember talking to somebody about I was pitching a certain documentary, and they're like, why do you want to make this documentary? And I was talking about how important it was to me because of my Nani and meeting her. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I told them, and they're like, that should be your documentary. I didn't think I thought it's just my life. I just thought it was, no one would be interested. But I found that the more that I can openly talk about what I went through, that can help other kids.
How far is it in production?
So we got development funding from Screen Australia to make it into like a blueprint for a script. Now we're talking to a major production company about the finances to do that, because it's quite a significant. It's 3 times 1 hour, shot in 4 to 5 different countries, including Bharat, Fiji, remote Australia, and we want to go to the US as well.
Got it. All the best for that production.
This is how, as a young boy, I completely abandoned my cultural identity after Mum died in a car accident when her car was hit by a speeding van a week from my 12th birthday, only to realise 24 years later what I truly sacrificed when I found out that my maternal grandma, who I thought had passed away, was still alive and waiting for me in the same house in Fiji.
Tell us a little bit about Namaste Yoga to our viewers. Most of our viewers know yoga, and the story. Tell us a little bit more about the acclaim that it's got, the accolades it's got. I hear it's a award-winning movie.
Yeah, so we got selected for. Way that Namaste Yoga came up was that there was a talent initiative in Australia that was done. It was a national call out that went out, and 4 different creators from around the country got chosen, and I was lucky enough to be chosen as one of them. And the whole idea was that you get to tell a story that's from your community, unapologetically from your community. And one of the things that I meant to be aimed at children, but we find that even adults get quite emotional watching Namaste Yoga as well. And so the idea of it was, I just had this burning desire that I was getting really agitated about how the Western and the white appropriating yoga industry has made something that is so sacred to us into $1 trillion business would not credit any of gurus or acharyas and outwardly just steal from us and treat those that come from that ancestry like we're idiots for questioning them. And so that was really getting under my skin. And then and Namaste Yoga, the two main characters, they're twins, a boy and a girl, and they're two sides of my personality growing up, what I had to deal with. One side, the boy is really, he just wants to fit in. The girl is really quite fierce in the way that she protects her.
Fierce and reconnecting to her past, or fierce?
Yeah, she's always been connected. She studies and dances Bharathiya, and
oh wow!
And so both of these kids had never danced Bharatanatyam before, and so we had to have 3 months worth of rehearsals into it, and they did a wonderful job.
Don't give all the secrets out. You know, it's like people have to go watch them. If they want to watch, where would they go?
So if you go to our website, warriortribefilms.com, and
it's World Tribe Films?
Warrior.
Kshatriya.
Warrior. Tribe Films.
Okay.
.com/Namaste Yoga Film. I'm there. Like if you're an Australian resident, you can.
We'll put the link, share the link on the comment section. Yeah, we'll describe it.
And then what we can do is, and what we're doing is getting.
Where do they find you on Facebook and Twitter?
We're on at Warrior Tribe Films on Instagram, at Warrior Tribe Films on Facebook. Twitter, we're not on Twitter. But those two main ones we're quite active.
Yeah. Okay. Let me pull you back into something more contemporary. You know, India is in second round of infatuation with Australia. Mm-hmm. We just like them. Many of us died saving that country in the World War II. You know, some of the Indians actually went out there and staved off the Japanese during that time, and there were a lot of Australian services participation as well. So Ravi, we were talking about your movies, Namaste Yoga, and then your next project. Now let's talk about Australia. You know, people in India are really curious about Australia, and we see Australia in a very favorable light. The camaraderie between the leaders are amazing, and not sure if it's an opportunistic camaraderie or is it a sustainable camaraderie, because after all, you know, Australia is a Commonwealth, and it's controlled from some other place.
Look, all politics is opportunistic. There definitely is, I've noticed from a geopolitical perspective, a real respect for Bharat, and not just respect, but also understanding of the might of Bharat and where Bharat is going. I think Modi government has done an incredible job of really bringing Bharat on a global scale. And like he came to Sydney to speak with the Australian Prime Minister, and he sold out an entire stadium. Like that was for rock concerts.
Were you there?
No, I was in Sydney. I didn't get there. The tickets sold so quickly. Like they went so fast. But you're talking like tens of thousands of people were in that stadium.
It's rock star caliber.
Yeah, it certainly is rock star caliber. So I think that interest in Bharat is coming from the efforts of what they have been doing, and also you can see the rise of what's happening.
I mean, it looks like it's also grassroots from the way you describe it.
Yeah, look, I think from grassroots point of view, there's always been, well, I can speak just for myself, there's always a interest, there's always, I guess, affinity towards Bharat, because that's our motherland. I was born in Fiji, but still, like, you know, we're part of heritage. So there's always that's there, but sometimes I migrated to Australia in 1982, and that was a very different time. It was very difficult to, let alone say that you're from Bharat, it to even look like you'd automatically get targeted, and I grew up with a lot of race. So as more people in Bharat have come, the numbers have really changed that demographic, and that kind of behaviour is still there. Australia is, whether, you know, white Australia wants to admit it or not, they are a very racist country. And the way the Indigenous Australians are treated there is incredibly bad.
You know, I want to take this conversation into two places. Let's talk about the indigenous population and the Aborigines out there. What is the state of affairs in Australia and the condition of the Aborigines?
Indigenous Australians, and I'm wary of talking about it, not on talking on their behalf, but also just helping you to understand their plight. So,
what should a typical viewer of PGurus know about the state of Aborigine affairs today?
Indigenous Australians in remote areas are amongst some of the worse off than third world. They are, the conditions that they live in. There have been well over 400 deaths in custody, and none of them, and it keeps happening all the time. Australia just recently went to a referendum, And so the whole country voted on whether Indigenous Australians could have a voice to Parliament, or a voice where they could, any matters regarding them wouldn't be just discussed by Parliament, which is predominantly made up of white people, that they would have consultation. It didn't mean that the changes would actually be forwarded, or not forwarded, the changes would actually be action, but it was an ability for them to have a voice, just at the bare minimum to have a voice, and the country voted no.
The country voted no, because self-rule is something very basic. In the US at least, there are reservations, and they don't call it prison camps these days, they call it reservations, and they mark out a geographical territory, and then whatever Native American tribe council decides about that territory holds. But they have some of the worst statistics in education, healthcare, and other civic issues out there.
There's certainly that dynamic of colonialism, that formula applied to our people also was applied to Indigenous people around the world. That's why I feel like such an affiliation and kinship with Indigenous peoples, particularly Indigenous Australians. You look at their culture, it is very similar to Hindu Dharma, like their connection to the land as owners of the land and the carers for the land, their connection to cosmos, to ancestors, to spirit. It is so similar to the way that we have a reverence of land and the bhumi.
Australia, the landmass, the continent of Australia, as it's shown in animation graphics, actually came from our armpit, from Bengal. Australia neatly attaches on the eastern seaboard all the way down to Burma, and that side of the Panajay, as they call it.
Yeah, I've had a lot of Indigenous Australians that I talk to, and they tell me that their family actually joke all the time about how much they look like, particularly South Indians, and how all of us, we have such similarities with them as well.
In fact, it's called their stock is called astraloid, astraloid stock, where they are of a different gene pool, but it does connect to the south of India, Sri Lanka, and so on, and all the Pacific Islands, by the way.
So Indigenous Australian culture, there's a lot to actually celebrate about it. It is archaeologically 65, and scientifically has been proven that Indigenous Australian culture has remained unchanged for 65,000 years. The tradition, exactly the way that they were doing it 65,000 years ago, is exactly the same now.
Wow.
And that is because...
So we have a living, breathing, live museum of the past. And if you're curious about it,
Yeah, I would definitely say, not so much a museum more like colonial constructs.
Yes, you're right.
So I'd say like it is a land that, and a culture that has very similar reverence as what we do. And, they have Uluru, which for many years they campaigned against having tourists walking across it. So Uluru would be like is quite a sacred place, and it would be the equivalent.
It is spelled UHURU.
ULURA, I think.
Yeah.
And tourists used to walk over it. It would be the equivalent of somebody walking across a Shilinga.
Oh.
So, but white Australia couldn't understand it. They were like, it's a tourist attraction, let us go do it. And when they were going to ban it, they were flooded with tourists that wanted to walk, knowing well how sacred it was. So there's so many issues that Indigenous Australians, because they don't have the advantage of we.
They don't have the same construct. I mean, we just saw the Australian captain put his leg on the World Cup cricket trophy, and people were scandalized.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Even the leftists in India were scandalized.
Yeah. There is a different, and I found this as well. And growing up, I found this as well. There was very much a disconnect between, I guess, the Hindu Dharma and that way of our ancestors sits inside of us as our blood, as a part of our DNA. And so we feel not right when things aren't respected the way that they should be. And so for me, I didn't have a language to be able to talk about that. But as I met more, particularly elders around the world, and I spoke about them in my speech, and also connected to various groups, Hindu Dharma groups around, I started reconnecting back to that. And now I have a language about that and why those things are disrespectful. But a number of times living in Australia, like, you just have to realize that they're not going to change. That's the way that they think. You better off spending your energy, in which what I do, creating work so that our children can see who they are, and then be able to then rise up and crack some doors open for them, because I'll be a little blip in all of this. I won't really matter. But if I can make a little bit of a pathway for younger generations to come through so they don't have to go through what I went through.
Thank you, Ravi, for explaining to us the vantage from which, the perspectives from which you view yourself and you view Bharat from down under.
Yeah.
And it's heartening to see that the distance has finally been bridged. You're here in Bangkok, where you have these Dwarapalaks in a conference center, in one of their largest conference center. Their king is considered to be Rama incarnate in Thailand, the kingdom of Thailand. And all the roads are either named after Indra or named after Rama.
Yeah.
And whatever you see out here, the murals, many murals around this room, they're all depicting scenes from the Ramayana.
It is quite extraordinary to be in a place like this, like especially coming from somewhere like Australia, where large murtis like this would just be like decorations. So when I was standing here, I saw somebody come in.
Yeah.
Who actually did pranam to one of it, which was extraordinary to see. You'd never see something like that in Australia. It's wonderful to be in this environment.
So I just wanted the viewers to see the architecture of a convention center. When a country knows who it is, when a nation knows who it is, they are confident. They know who they are. They know what they stand for. And they actually invite these artifacts into some of the most sacred places where they do business. Imagine if there was a Hindu deity right there in the middle of Chhatrapati Shivaji airport in Bombay or somewhere in Delhi. That's the equivalent of this. They wear it proudly on their sleeves. Thailand has really woken me up as to what you can do with architecture. Some of these buildings out here in Bangkok are amazingly unique. They unapologetically, and that's the word, say, state, and declare their culture, their values in a very humble way, but in a very assertive way. Did you get a sense of that?
Absolutely. I heard someone in the conference actually talk like it was so nice to be walking through somewhere where people don't understand English, where English isn't the go-to, but there's this reverence that's actually here and of understanding what we're here for. It's connection to their indigenous culture, which I think is quite extraordinary. Like, it's a beautiful place, and you can tell the reverence that's here and the respect that's here.
Fantastic, Ravi. We will end the show here, but we want you back very soon, very shortly. We'll talk a little bit about geopolitics. Most of our viewers are really interested in it, and so we'll give you a call.
Sure.
All the best on your journey, and we are looking forward to seeing your second film. You can just repeat the details of the film, and then we'll also add a link at the end of the show.
Sure. Okay, so Namaste Yoga is the film that we'll be now releasing globally, which we'll have in the link of this description of this video, which is warriortribefilms.com/Namaste Yoga movie, Namaste Yoga film. We'd love for you to watch it, particularly for the Hindu Dharma community. I know it will help a lot of children. It's helped a lot of children in Australia as well. And I really thank you for the opportunity as well to be able to talk with you.
You're welcome. And viewers, please don't forget to like, share, or subscribe. If you still haven't, there's a lot more content that's going to come. Content is a trivial word, but there's a lot more exciting programming. See you later. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.